Hello everyone, thank you for joining the CIO Straight Talk webcast on Blueprint to build and execute your enterprise-wide cloud strategy. My name is Edward Gardner, I'm from HCL Technologies and I'm your host for today. Now CIO Straight Talk is the award-winning engagement platform sponsored by HCL Technologies for CIOs and other IT leaders. The foundation of the platform is the belief that the best IT thought leaders are CIOs themselves. And the best way to harness their experience and their insights is in the form of peer-to-peer learning. Now, adoption of public cloud is on everyone's mind, but very few of us truly understand what workloads can go onto the cloud and how this should be done. And also many firms struggle with the business case and the roadmap to migrate enterprise-wide applications onto the cloud. It's going to be questions around these topics that will be answered in today's session. I have alongside me two very accomplished IT leaders. On my immediate right is Chris Birch, who is IT Director at News UK, and next to him is Sudhanshu Bhandari, a Senior Analyst at Forrester Research. Gentlemen, welcome to this show.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now, the way this usually works is that I'll be asking Chris and Sudhanshu a series of questions of my own, but we would like to encourage you to ask your own questions, which I'll try and bring into the conversation. So you should see a chat box at the bottom left corner of your console. If you type in your questions there, I'll hopefully be able to take them up during the course of the webcast. And if we run out of time, the Straight Talk team will respond to you directly after the session. And you can also participate in a live chat on Twitter using the hashtag NewsUKCloud. Okay, so let's start with Sudhanshu. I want to ask you a couple of questions now on market trends. So, it's widely recognised that migration to the cloud is not easy. It's absolutely not a plug-and-play process for any enterprise. It's a journey, it needs rigorous planning, you need to architect the necessary infrastructure and lodge your application portfolio onto the cloud in a sequential manner. But many organisations are doing this and they're doing it successfully. So can you take us through some of the market trends that you're seeing around the adoption of public cloud? And also, can you make a comment around whether these trends are being fueled by business model disruptions in specific industries such as media and publishing?
Sure. So let me answer this question in three parts. Let's first talk about the public cloud adoption trends. Public cloud services are driving changes in the software industry, in the hardware industry, and the IT outsourcing market, and there is no doubt about it. As you can see in the slides that I'm sure must be getting projected along with this, the application cloud market, or what we call as software service, that has been and will continue to be the largest portfolio for the public cloud market. It represents more than 4/5 of the cloud revenue in 2014, and SaaS applications will grow from $52 billion in 2013 to $133 billion by 2020, which will be estimated 2/3 of the cloud revenue by 2020. Infrastructure as service and platform as service have gained significant enterprise traction as well. What is driving public cloud adoption is business agility and ability to focus internal resources on more important projects. Now, let's talk about the second part of the question about industry-specific trends. Based on Forrester survey, all industries today are adopting cloud. Depending on the industry and the country, there might be variation between the public cloud and private cloud adoption. Specific to media publishing firms, the print advertising revenue have been going down, but at the same time, the online advertising revenues have not been growing at the same pace. So there are two things which are quite important for media and publishing firms. First, they have to optimize their technology infrastructure spendings. Second, they need to embrace technology on which they can build platforms which customers are willing to pay for. And cloud is natural for news media company because it offers scalable and it provides wide geographic location. So that's why it's really important for news media company to really embrace latest technology. Now, properly designed applications in cloud can really harness the benefit of cloud, especially for news media company. When there are news breakouts, they can really get advantage of using cloud. In summary, SaaS will drive the public cloud market for foreseeable future, and customer need to have well thought through strategy for cloud migration. For CIOs, the message is clear: shift into the driver's seat or other will.
Okay, great, thank you. So question for you, Chris. So after the financial meltdown, companies around the world were facing momentous shifts in their markets that disrupted the existing business models that they had. And so they were compelled to adapt and modify the way that they delivered information technologies to their user base. So what were some of the changes that you decided to make, and what were the objectives behind those?
So I think this is kind of around 2008 where we all suffered from the terrible financial meltdown, certainly the worst in living history. And I think it's to Sudhanshu's first point in his answer in terms of we had to look at our cost base in technology. We were faced with declining sales revenues and, importantly for us as well, advertising revenues, as people were tightening their belts and they were choosing not to buy their daily newspaper across the whole marketplace. So we were faced with that kind of traditional cyclic problem that we see in the economy. Our costs are too high and our revenues are declining, and what do we naturally do at that point? We look to cut costs as efficiently as we can, and there's a number of levers that we've got. It's people, or indeed it's technology and overheads. So what we've done, I think, which gave us a great segue into the later questions we've got on our cloud journey, is we took a deliberate strategy to undertake a transformational outsource, and we picked HL as our kind of infrastructure management partner of choice. So we offshored pretty much all of our infrastructure management, and pretty much used the money we saved in that to fund a virtualization program and data center transformation program, which pretty much gave us the ability to exit our own fixed cost data centers, to virtualize our estate to in excess of 90% of the servers in the estate were virtualized through 2008 to 2011. And that freed up that fixed cost, particularly in things like the basics, hardware maintenance, paying the data center electricity bill. And it gave us a great efficiency drive at that point. It gave us a technology refresh, and it made us very agile in terms of providing resources to the business with limitations of what we had in the data center on our virtual estate.
I see. So can you tell us a bit more about the change management program itself, both within IT and across the wider News UK organisation?
Certainly. So that change management program in 2008, it was a fairly easy sell at the boardroom. The toughest element of that sell was outsourcing for the first time. We hadn't traditionally done any outsourcing at News UK, and there was naturally, I think, some angst amongst members of the board and senior stakeholders in the business that we were giving up control of our own destiny by partnering with someone so deeply for such a critical service as infrastructure management. And I think demonstrating the business case behind that and the strategy in terms of the modernisation of the data centres as a side benefit of reinvesting that money into the company, and the agility it would give us to facilitate a faster change or a faster rate in change of enabling business programs, and particularly new products, getting those to market and innovations in our existing products. Make that a fairly easy sell, I have to say, and I'm sure that lots of people in 2008 didn't let that crisis go to waste and seize the opportunity.
Okay, so Sudhanshu, coming back to you now. So you've conducted fairly extensive research with many large companies on cloud computing, and you've also authored a dedicated case study on the digital transformation story at News UK. Can we talk about some of the highlights of your report? And can you share some thoughts around the challenges that are associated commonly with cloud computing, such as security concerns and availability issues?
Yeah, sure. So based on my interaction and with the customer and vendors, I would mainly focus on 4 key things in this discussion. Number 1, companies should adopt cloud in incremental steps. When I speak to a lot of CIOs, they got quick wins by moving some part of their IT infrastructure to cloud, but when it comes to moving majority of your IT infrastructure there and getting measurable benefits will require substantial amount of time as well as iterations. It is therefore important to have right IT transformation architects, processes, and partners in place to design, migrate, and manage hybrid cloud deployments. Number two, segregate duty when you're migrating your workloads to cloud. Keeping the lights on is the main focus, main priority for the business as usual team. So cloud migration projects often miss deadlines due to the requirement of day-to-day operation support. For production rollout, it is really important that you have designated internal roles and a dedicated transformation team that is responsible for completing the transformation projects within the stipulated time. However, there is also a need for this transformation team to engage with the business as usual team from the onset of the cloud migration program and ensure that they have committed to achieve the transformation goals. Number three, and I think this is also quite important, it's really important to understand what are the capabilities, what are the roles and responsibilities, and what are the SLAs that cloud service provider is providing. End user firms, when we speak to various customers, end user firms are creating comprehensive strategy and implementation plans for public cloud and other as service offerings, but only few firms that I've spoken to, they have indicated that they would hire new skill set, cloud skill set. Like as per our survey in Asia Pacific, only 26% companies said that they are hiring new cloud architects. And unsurprisingly, this is happening because companies still harbor myth about cloud. They think they are inherently resilient. They think they are always cheaper. They also think that there is no need to worry about cloud architecture. Enterprise customers think that cloud services provider will take care of the architecture. Unfortunately, that is not true. And that's why enterprise need to have cloud architects and partner who can put their skin in the game. Enterprise customers therefore need to understand roles and responsibilities, service levels when leveraging public cloud. Number four, public clouds are built to fail, so plan for it. And this is really important. There are multiple public cloud outages that happened in 2013. Such outages can hinder your ability to deliver services to your customers, and it can really break the confidence of your business. Entire region and cloud environments do fail. It is your responsibility to ensure that workarounds are in place to fail over cloud services to another cloud or to restore data when the backup is lost, especially accidental deletions. In summary, understand the public cloud landscape. What is your cloud service provider doing, what he can do, what he cannot do. Have proper segregation of duties. Cloud migration will require substantial amount of planning and time, and provision for cloud resiliency architecture. Have right partners to provide you cloud resiliency.
Okay. So following on your comment around public clouds and their propensity to fail, a question for you, Chris. So News UK chose to migrate quite a significant portion of your application workload onto the public cloud, including some fairly mission critical applications like SAP. You touched on this earlier. How did you manage to convince the business that adoption of a public cloud infrastructure was the right way to go? And how did you generate the business case for it?
I'd start with endorsing, I think, everything Sudhanshu has said, and with hindsight, we would have done exactly that. The fact is that we were faced with a slightly different challenge in around 2011, following the launch of the first tablet from Apple, and the demand from our business to innovate on that new platform for our customers, really, who were clamouring for it. And we saw the Times of London obviously start to charge for content on a product that was on that tablet. Now that business grew so very quickly in late 2010, early 2011, that the on-premise access control system, which was very resilient and to the point it had a good service design, it could fail over between data centers, we simply couldn't bring in enough infrastructure to keep pace with the demand on that system, particularly on Sunday mornings when we had 150,000 people log into the product in a very short space of time. It used to fail. So in 2011, we had a very compelling challenge from the business, which was fix that so that customers can get access to the digital products they're paying for on the tablet. So without all of the benefit of going through real procurement, ordering new hardware that would take 6 months to kind of deliver, configure, set up with an operating system and pass across to the developers, we turned to Amazon Web Services at that point. We did go through a very quick service design, and we designed a scalable infrastructure in Amazon with auto-scale capability to replace our access control system at that time. So in terms of convincing the business, we were faced with a challenge that we had to solve in a very quick point of time. Saying no was not a possibility. So we kind of stumbled into public cloud at that time. We kind of knew it was there, but we used it in anger for the first time for a mission critical service, and it was very successful. We had a new system up and running within 3 weeks. IT had never been able to do that before until that time. So in terms of convincing the business and establishing the business case, well, the business case was fairly easy. It's either we build it here or we lose all of those new subscribers who are paying good money to access our world-class journalism and fantastic products, or we tell them to wait 6 months while we solve it in the data center. So the establishing credibility and business case with the business was actually quite easy. And from that point forward, it's actually been quite an organic journey because we've established our credentials. We apply all of the same service management and service design disciplines that we did on the data center to the cloud. And as Sudhanshu said, it's very important that enterprise capability in the cloud is established and you test your failover and your DR as you would with on-premise infrastructure. And I have to say, I believe the myth as well that there is nothing stopping you in public cloud from doing anything that you can't do in your data center. And in fact, I think you can do it better in public cloud.
Okay, so walk us through that journey. So from designing a roadmap right through to the actual implementation. And if you could elaborate on actually how you went about sequencing the application workloads onto the cloud.
Sure. So again, I would love to say it was really deliberately well planned from 2011, from January 2011 when we were faced with that first challenge over the subsequent 18 months. But the truth is it wasn't. And it was quite deliberately it wasn't, because what we wanted to do was bring in a bunch of smart developers who probably had never seen infrastructure or the inside of a data center, but were excellent engineers and coders to build digital products for the explosion in the tablet and mobile and indeed the web market, which is still very important to us. We wanted to abstract them from any kind of infrastructure bottleneck. So what we did is created a very broad enterprise wrapper and a virtual public cloud in public cloud providers with dedicated secure connections from our data center into the public cloud provider. And we pretty much gave them free rein to consume as much public cloud resources they want. And the principles were we'll go cloud first and where possible software as a service, followed by platform, followed by infrastructure as a service where the software as a service isn't possible. And it probably wasn't until we were 18 months into that journey with approaching, I think, over 1,000 instances running in Amazon that we kind of took stock. It's a very frenetic company we work in, very fast paced, but we realized that we did indeed have to get some kind of control over that environment. Now, I think with hindsight, would I have done the same again? I think absolutely so. I think we seized the competitive advantage in our marketplace by allowing those developers to have the free rein to develop the products to win the customers and generate more revenue so we can keep being profitable and replacing some of those declines in the general printed newspaper and advertising market. But in around the middle of 2012, we did put together a very positive strategy, and then we holistically looked over the applications that we had left in the data center, which were predominantly enterprise applications. And obviously the point of the webcast today is to talk about those enterprise applications. And bear in mind what we've done in 2008 in terms of establishing virtualization ratios in excess of 90%. We were in a unique position maybe to go forward and take that short step to then start plotting the path of all of those enterprise applications, hardcore, pre-press and ERP type applications, for their demise in the data center when it was sensible and economical to move them during a required hardware refresh or an application update to apply our principles of cloud first, and then instead of replacing the tin in the data center, to actually shrink the data center and move that application with all of the service design and service management, good ITIL principles, into the public cloud. And that's been very successful. We're running around 49% of our infrastructure and compute resources from the public cloud today.
Fantastic. So I've got a question here on stakeholders. So during that journey that you took, who were the most important stakeholders that you worked with, both internal and external?
Yeah, so I think certainly the most important stakeholder is it's always our editorial crew, and more importantly the purse holder, the CFO. And I think convincing the CFO when we're wedded to a kind of a capital refresh cycle that everyone's fairly comfortable with, we depreciate over a number of years, it's quite well formed, it puts an asset on the company, we report an EBITDA, so we haven't ever really been capital constrained in terms of investing in the data center to create good assets. So that's not been a problem. So it's been quite disruptive, and the CFO, I think, and the finance community in general have been key stakeholders in taking a longer range vision of exactly why this is so disruptive, and giving us credit, I think, for breaking this constant cycle of hardware refresh every 3 or 5 years, depending on what your cycle is, diverting the business away from that as you have to get new tin, replace the app, test it, certify it, and all of that. So we truly believe that keeping the financial community as a key stakeholder on board and make them part of the journey, make them part of the business case development is absolutely key. And of course, all of the other stakeholders that consume your service, as Sudhanshu said, you cannot get distracted from running the business and offering a key, hardcore, highly available, highly stable and highly performant set of IT services without losing those stakeholders if that isn't true and if that isn't constant. So as soon as you have a wobble in the run of your IT services, your stakeholders will naturally start talking to you about that rather than having a much higher value conversation about the next set of products and digital applications that they want to launch and they want your help with and your advice on. They'll be kicking your butt on why isn't my service up and stable.
Sudhanshu, we see that many organisations undertake discrete point projects when it comes to cloud adoption rather than taking a more holistic and comprehensive approach. So what do you see as some of the challenges that organisations are facing when attempting to make cloud an enterprise-wide strategy?
I touched upon this topic earlier. When I talk to CIOs and based on our interviews, most of the companies are able to migrate 20 to 25% of the workload quite seamlessly to cloud. However, they really struggle when it comes to migrating, especially the interdependent workloads and the workloads that require low latency. So most of the CIOs today, they've understood this fact and they're not planning to replace existing technology. But firms are experimenting with complementary technology. This is to avoid jeopardizing the safety and reliability of existing systems. So that is one. The second part, which is really most of the companies face, is aspects around cultural change that are quite important. Quite often there is a pushback from the internal technology management team. These existing administrators do not want to let go of their technology that they have built over the period of years. So for leveraging cloud in a true sense, it is important that these technology management team, they empower applications team to do mundane provisioning and replication tasks. And the IT team should focus on automating day-to-day tasks. For automation, it is really important that technology management team, they have broader understanding of cloud technology infrastructure. They cannot just focus on their networking, their storage. They need to have really broader understanding of the entire cloud platform and how their changes would impact other things. And for this, they need to have skill sets around things like open standards, which is OpenStack, Cloud Foundry, and there are a lot of things that they need to be really, they really need to improve their skill sets on. The third thing is firm also needs to comply with the data residency requirements. What data should stay within a geographic location and what can be hosted outside. In some of the countries, the data can't even go outside the state. Leave apart country, it cannot go outside the state as well. Public cloud security provisions and practices are superior to those of many private data centers. In many private data centers, systems have not been patched, they have not been rebooted. So adopting cloud can improve security.
Okay, so related to that, Chris, how do you plan to develop your enterprise-wide strategy from News UK to the wider News UK, News Corp? And also, what role does a partner like HCL play in these implementations?
I think that's a great question. So, and we've already started considering that. And I was asked late last year after the separation of old News Corp as it was into new News Corp, which is really the publishing arm of the old News Corp. So it's News UK, it's Dow Jones, it's News Corp Australia and HarperCollins and a bunch of other business units. So 7 key business units really. So as that company came together on July the 1st last year, we naturally looked at what we could do together that would be more efficient and reduce the kind of standard run cost of all of the infrastructure across those 7 businesses. And that's really important because we want to free up cash in our new News Corp business to invest in digital products and obtain new revenue streams to replace those of the declining kind of paper sales across the globe. So I was asked to work with my compadres in my regional counterparts in North America and in Australia. And pretty much we at that point decided to undertake a full News Corp global application assessment. So we've got a kind of a poster boy in terms of good practice at News UK. And really we wanted to see if we could apply that and what the economics would be of applying that to the whole of News Corp. And there were certainly already pockets of excellence across News Corp, but mainly in the digital spaces and less in the enterprise spaces. So we're running 64 data centers, we've got over 13,000 physical servers, and that's got quite a high cost base attached to running those data centers and the hardware maintenance and the hardware refresh and just the general distraction and drain on our resources. That's not really our core business and we can't be that efficient at it. So I undertook, in partnership with HCL, who are our constant infrastructure management provider, who are fairly familiar with our application suite because they provide the platforms upon which they run, and they also had relationships with some of our other business units. So I asked HCL to, within 16 weeks, to undertake a full global application assessment across News Corp in Asia Pacific, in EMEA, and indeed across North America as well. And we had to select a partner that we knew that could operate quite quickly and were kind of agile, that had some experience of us working with the cloud and knew kind of our culture and what we were looking for. And we managed to complete that application assessment. But not only an application assessment, you know, is it cloudable, as we called it? I'm not sure that's a word, but it's one we've put into our lexicon at News Corporation. So does it fit well for the cloud, and what are the parameters we're looking for to see if it fits well? So can the technology work well in the cloud? Can we tweak it so it can auto scale and things like that? And indeed, what's the absolute technical cost of ownership of that app running on premise today? Let's take that and get the real facts for the business case, and then let's model running that application on infrastructure as a service, or indeed, is there an alternative to it, in a public cloud provider, and let's do a giant business case across News Corp and see what the result of that will be. Well, I can tell you that work's completed, and we're now into our kind of financial planning for the end of our year and the beginning of our new fiscal year on July the 1st. And it has culminated in a very positive business case and a clear strategy to close down all of our data centers bar 6. So we'll keep 2 regional data centers in a pair in each region, so to speak. And the bulk of the infrastructure that sits in outside of all of those data centers will move to public cloud, and there is a timetable for each application based on the application's age and the economics around that application for when that will move into the public cloud. And we aim to complete that program by the end of 2017, at which point we'll have over 75% of News Corp's resources being provided by public cloud.
Okay. Great. So we're getting quite a bit of interest in the whole topic of where partners come in. So Sudhanshu, would you like to add to what Chris has said? So what role do system integrators and cloud enablers like HCL, what role do they play in these cloud implementations?
Yep. So system integrators, cloud enablers, they have especially deeper understanding of what are the nuances that are involved when migrating workloads to cloud, and they know how to address it. So it's really important that companies leverage partners and cloud enablers to fulfill the gap that is there in skill set and migrate the services workloads to cloud in a well orchestrated and timely manner.
Okay. So another question for you, Chris. So if you look back on the journey that you took implementing public cloud environment, what were some of the learnings that you took away? So if you had to do it all over again with a bit of hindsight, are there any obvious things that you'd do differently?
So I think I'd take Sudhanshu's blueprint that he set out earlier and set out with a deliberate strategy from the off, particularly in how you orchestrate and you use automation, particularly around provisioning and patching and all of those good things. I wouldn't do anything differently because it gave us the competitive advantage. But if I were in a place now where I was starting again without having that business imperative to get new products to market, I would absolutely adopt the blueprint. I would go through an application assessment, as we've just done at News Corp. And then I would very much look at your organisation, look at the partners who you want to work with to provide you the raw engine of public cloud. Who are you going to work with? And there's some key players in that market who are leading the market. There's some emerging people, so you need to keep a weather eye. And then you need to look at your skills and capabilities that you have in the organisation. And pretty much, if you've got really good technologists in your organisation already, then to start to train them, to make them, to allow them to adapt, to divorce architecture from infrastructure and simply do architecture without worrying about what infrastructure it sits upon, and then to adopt the best practice of service design and ITIL service management as you are plotting how those services run into the cloud. So all of the basics still apply in terms of service transition. You should be able to test your kind of inter-region failover capability, and in fact you should design your apps to survive failure of the cloud provider's data center, just in the same way as you should design those apps to survive should your own data center fail, which of course many people never do. And I think probably just the last point, if it's good practice to do in the cloud, ask yourself if you're doing that in your data center already. Encryption kind of springs to mind on that. Many people tell me that they don't go into the cloud because they should encrypt their data before they do it, and I ask them why they're not encrypting within their data center as well, if that is the case.
Okay. So going back to you now, Sudhanshu. So what are the various ways through which organisations can overcome some of the bottlenecks associated with public cloud adoption? So I'm talking about things like missing information or gaps in skills or the absence of a strong business case.
Regarding the building a business case especially, companies should use public cloud to free up back office capital for customer facing projects. Many applications can be run less expensively on public cloud infrastructure than in conventional data centers, such as collaboration, CRM, email. So these can be run more effectively on public cloud. Use public cloud to free up capital expenditures for new business initiatives such as mobile, digital, big data, Internet of Things. For your public cloud adoption, I would really recommend that you complement your existing technology infrastructure and see how it plays, and do not jeopardize your existing reliability and the application needs from your stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. So we're now out of time. Thank you very much indeed to Chris and Sudhanshu for your unique insights and for creating such a stimulating conversation. And so for our audience, thank you again for joining us. I hope you found it useful and that you'll join us again for the next CIO Straight Talk webcast. And until then, goodbye.